So over the past 5 years, you guys know I've been running on and off Hotshot, and recently we've been making a lot more money in the shop than Hotshot has really been bringing in, but that's a discussion for later. I wanted to go over a bunch of your guys' questions, put together a bunch of content for you guys, and kind of update all of my old, outdated information. And I'm going to say outdated because back when I was doing Hotshot back in 2019, 2018, like, the market was just a lot different than it is now. Back then, fuel prices weren't such a big deal. Rates were always up and down and this and that. But there's a lot of different questions that I want to go over with you guys and help you guys out and just reiterate on a lot of the stuff that I did, show you guys like the ins and outs and kind of like my experience. That's pretty much where this video is going to be. So we're going to be talking about lease trucks versus owning a truck outright versus buying a new truck and making a payment. Now, as you guys know, I ran my old truck. I had that truck for 5 years. I bought the truck with 314,000 miles. I paid $15,000 for it. My payments every month were $253. Okay, I had that truck paid off at the end of the day, and when I was done with the truck, it has 571,000 miles. Now, understandably, I could have just thrown another motor in it and had the truck back on the road, but at the end of the day, I've had that truck for 5 years, and I'm just kind of over it, so that's a discussion for another day. But going from owning that truck to I've seen a lot of guys with new trucks, and I have a kind of a hit or miss on buying a brand new truck. I understand it's a great tax write-off. The other problem is it does up your expenses quite a bit. Now, it does limit downtime at times, but there are also other times where these newer trucks are kind of getting experimental, and sometimes you can have a truck down for a month, 2, even 3 months at a time, especially waiting on parts. So if you're a guy that doesn't have much of a savings or doesn't have another truck to fall back on, it can cripple or bankrupt your business. I personally don't have experience with brand new trucks. I do have experience with newer trucks. When we had CP towing, there was the 2011, 2012, 2014, 2013, and a 2016. We also had a 2000 and a 2004 International and a Freightliner. And for the most part, those trucks were pretty decent, except for the fact that when an emissions component went out, ultimately they needed to be deleted. But again, we're not going to talk about that here. So my experience with newer trucks is they were definitely a lot more expensive. We were spending a lot more money in DEF, a lot more money in fuel, whereas the older truck was cheaper to drive, but more, there was more maintenance on top of it as well. But it also doesn't help that I bought a truck that had 300 and some thousand miles at the time. I have recently gotten the chance to lease a truck from the company that I'm actually running for. I was able to lease a brand new F-250. And unfortunately, my comparison with that is going to be that the rates are absolutely terrible, and I'm more of a local driver. So in those 2 weeks, I only grossed $4,500. It probably could have been a lot more, but I'm going from car hauling and campers to freight. Freight I've never done before, and then I decided to do it locally. So my knowledge with that is very limited. Someone else up here in Pennsylvania could probably be making that probably weekly, but again, we're dealing with the high fuel prices. So overall, we're going to cover the older truck first, right? So obviously I ran the older truck. You saw some of the problems that I had. But at the end of the day, with YouTube, if I don't have problems, there's not going to be some views. So you can probably take about 50% of those problems out and consider things like minor stuff. Like, we used that truck as an experiment truck. We used cheap parts, this and that. It put on a good show. It made a ton of money. And if I looked at my ad revenue last night, I think all said and done from like April of last year, I think YouTube did a little over $37,000. So that in itself is its own income stream. So it worked out for me. But as I've talked to some other guys who run the older truck, and they didn't have near the problems that I've had, which is to be understanding, because a lot of times a guy with an older truck, they'll take their truck in, they'll get it fixed, it's fixed right, they're using good quality parts, and they'll be back on the road. Most case scenario. Any truck can have big problems. I don't care if you run the Power Strokes, the Duramaxes, the Cummins. You get a transmission failure on a 68 RFE or an Ison, you're out $5,000 to $10,000 right there. You're out a motor, there's $10,000. Doesn't matter what brand you have. So any of these trucks can realistically cost you money. It doesn't matter if you go new or old. Now with the new trucks, you get a great warranty, but the problem is now you're at the mercy of the dealership. So you have a problem, you got to get it towed in. With Rams, I've noticed with the CP4 issues, I know they went back to CP3s, but now they're having electrical problems. So those trucks are costing downtime. I'm going to use the company I'm leased under as an example. So he went and bought newer Rams, and 2 of those trucks had been in the shop for 3 months. One was a 2022, one was a 2018. And then the Fords, when they go in the shop and they need repair, because they've had a 10-speed replacement, and they're in and out in not very long, like usually 48 hours. Now, transmission replacement's going to be a little bit longer, but again, anytime the Ford needed something, it was in and out. Now, this is where the lease trucks come into play. I liked Tow Piglet's logic on the lease trucks, and I do think now, looking back, that was ultimately what made the most sense. Mainly because if you own a truck, you're basically just owning a liability. And I see that, and what I mean by owning a liability is you're going to be constantly repairing that truck forever. All new trucks become old trucks at some point. So it doesn't matter if you brought it new. You know, it made you your money in the first 300,000 miles. But after that, now you're stuck with this truck. Whereas with the lease, you just renew a lease, you get a new truck every 6 months. And the best part about that is what I've noticed with what they're paying per mile. I think it was like 22 cents or 23 cents a mile. All maintenance is included. If you're going to have hard downtime, if the truck is going to be just absolutely messed up to the point they can't get you the parts, or they have like the lug nuts, there was a recall on the lug nuts. These trucks were down for months at a time on just these lug nuts alone. They'll get you a new truck like that, so you can go out and continue making money. And that is ultimately the point. If you're not a YouTuber and you're out here dedicated Hotshot, honestly, I think the lease truck makes the most sense. And the older truck, if you can do your own maintenance and you can do it right, makes sense. Owning and buying a new truck, the way that works, you need to be making double payments on that. So your insurance payment, let's just say you pay $1,500 a month for insurance, right? You bought a new truck. Say your payments, I don't know, let's just go with $1,000. It's a nice round number. There's $2,500 a month, okay? That should be 3 days worth of work, but then you got to factor in your fuel, this and that. You should be spending probably $1,500 a week on fuel right now if you're an out driver. The other thing, not to mention the fuel, the miles you're going to be racking up on this truck. You go out and you get a 5-year loan through your business. Oh well, right? By the time you hit that 5-year mark, that truck's going to have 600, 700,000 miles by the time it's paid off. So a lot of guys are upside down on that loan, and that's why I've always hated the newer truck logic, because unless you're making those double payments, if you're just making that minimal payment every month and paying it off for 5 years, it's going to throw you in a loop when you realize that your truck has 300,000 miles and you owe 40 grand on it. It's not a good position to be in. I understand it's all a tax write-off, and you can get some tax advantages for it, but you're going to have to be making double payments. So that new truck every month, instead of it costing you $1,000, you're going to have to be doubling your payment. And even better, what you could be doing, instead of just making double payments, is you can calculate how many miles you want this truck paid off at. So say at 300,000 miles, your $60,000 or $70,000 truck should be paid off. You should divide the miles by how much you owe on it, and to determine, okay, at 300,000 miles, it should be paid to zero. You should be setting money aside per mile, just like the enterprise rentals do. You should be setting money aside per mile so that you can pay your fuel expenses, so that you can pay the lease expenses on that truck, because it was like 22 or 23 cents a mile back then. I don't know what it is right now, but at the end of the day, these are my opinions on all of this stuff. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that one way is correct over another. Take these 3 scenarios, pick and choose what you think works best for you. Honestly, this whole series, I'm going to be making this because right now there's a lot of guys that are struggling and going out of business, and the ones that aren't, the guys who are out here actually killing it, like, they're the ones that are willing to put out there is a lot of work in this industry, and they're people like me who want to be home every single day. I'm one of the guys at the bottom, and I'm going to tell you that now, because a lot of guys look at me, they look at Tow Piglet, they look at Hotshot Mac, Hotshot Benny, all these guys out here, they look at us because we have a camera, and oh, we're doing so well, we're up here at the top. And that's really not the case. I mean, even Benny got out of Hotshot. He realized that there's more money in semi-trucking. When the fuel prices go up, the semis make more money. And when the fuel prices are down, the Hotshots most of the time will make more money. That's just what I'm seeing physically being out here. Like I said, I've run since 2018. It's 2020, almost 2023 now. And I probably run in those years probably 3 full years, but on and off. And the reason I do the on and off is just because of the money that's in it. Sometimes things pay better. I got out of Hotshot originally because I was like, man, I don't want to do that. I was miserable doing it the first time, so I got out of it. And then I got hit with some serious legal fees. I had to get back into it to make ends meet. And Hotshot is the reason that I am at where I'm at today. It's a really good feeling. So take this as you will, guys. Like I said, I'm going to be putting all these clips in the background and stuff to kind of like show you and make these videos a lot more interesting than what they were. So like I said, none of this information is hard in stone stuff. Everything's going to change when fuel prices go up and rates go down, or rates go up and fuel prices go down. There's always stuff that can be updated and gone over, and you can always learn and live from your old mistakes and stuff like that. These are my logics. I'm going to be giving you guys a bunch more videos. Hope you guys enjoyed this type. If I missed anything in this video, please let me know. And you guys down there, please feel free to make response videos on this stuff too. Tag me in your response videos. I'll be more than happy to comment, because I know I'm only one guy. I went it my route. I know what worked for me. What worked for me might not work for the next guy who doesn't know how to rebuild an engine, or doesn't know how to replace engines or transmissions or this and that. You guys have seen me swap a transmission in a parking lot like 1,200 miles from my house. You know, you guys have seen, the guys who have been here on the old channel, you guys saw me swapping injectors on a common rail out in Arizona, out in Texas, out in California, like on the side of the road. It's all stuff that I've been able to do, and I mean, the guys have seen me do it, but most guys don't have that knowledge and can't do that. Most guys out here, you know, they know their basic troubleshooting, they know a little bit of wiring for the trailer and stuff like that. So just keep in mind, what works for me doesn't work for everybody else. You need to look at your situation and find out what makes sense financially, find out what makes sense tax-wise, and that's pretty much where I'm going to cut it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go down in the description, go check out Rumble. I started another account over there. Go check out Mudflap, link in the description as well. They will save you a shitload of money on fuel. And the whole thing with Rumble is I'm going to be double posting, so any content that is over here will then go to Rumble. I'm hoping to get the Rumble following up. I'm already monetized over there, but I think there's like 45 followers, so just go check that out. Appreciate you guys for sticking around. Like I said, email me some questions if you have anything. I'll be making videos on all this stuff all week. Appreciate you guys. Later.